Well, some images like this have been appearing, and according to what Juan Goni says over there in Spain, you can see these images of moths in Navarra. What's happening over there in Spain? Well, there are a lot of moths that are apparently filling up some regions, some houses. They're talking about a lack of reforestation, and they're saying that the problem is something else, more related to some kind of uncontrolled infestation, right? We don't know, but obviously this is starting to cause concern. There are already multiple people who have talked about this topic. This post says it goes far beyond just forest loss. It's an out-of-control infestation that's suffocating everything. It's an unprecedented ecological disaster. At least that's what they're reporting on social media. And look, the thing is, it's when there are, let's say, erratic weather patterns, or when there's, let's say, some part of the whole environment, let's say it suddenly gets thrown off balance, and then there starts to be too much of something. For example, in this case with these moths, right? I mean, moths that have been causing problems. Obviously, over there in that region of Spain, it must be an infestation or something like that, already totally out of control. Well, we'll see what is known about it. But yes, images like this are starting to appear. A couple of days ago, there was already talk about efforts to eliminate this kind of infestation, which has also raised alarms in other regions of the world, not just in Spain. So, that's why I'd like to keep an eye on these issues. Infestations that have occurred, for example, in other parts further north of Spain, of Europe, which have also been affecting, for example, the trees, right? I mean, it's not just that it affects, the houses or the areas where it's currently affecting in Spain, but it's also happening in other places in Spain and Europe, right? Well, pests that are easily controllable, obviously, if you take the right measures, enough attention, and we'll tell you what it is, what it's about, right? But they attract attention, and there are already some people talking about an alleged plague of giant butterflies and moths in Mallorca. They say that it's not a plague, that they're harmless, and that they'll be gone in a few days. In other words, it's not a plague that affects anything, right? Recently, Mallorca has seen many butterflies as well as large moths, confirming that's exactly what they are. There are a lot of them, but in a few days they'll leave on their own. There's no need to be alarmed. It's not a harmful plague or a danger to the environment. They're simply intense migratory waves, more intense than in recent years, and they assure us that they don't cause any problems. So, well, the question is it a plague? Well, at least with the information we have, it's not a plague. In any case, it would just be an excess that suddenly came from what they call highways. Aerial highways, right? That are made by the same moths and butterflies and everything. And suddenly they decide to arrive in a single area. And well, yes, they saturate it. It looks very impressive. But it doesn't go beyond that, right? It's not officially considered a plague, according to what's reported. It has caused concern, especially because of the appearances of nocturnal moths, which are the ones that freak people out the most. But they say they don't bite, they're completely harmless, they don't sting, and they don't cause any kind of problem. What they do is help with pollination of the European ecosystems. So, well, in any case, we have to take care of them because they pollinate. They help pollinate the ecosystems. The countries, the European countries, depend on those moths. So that, let's say, everything keeps improving, well, the whole issue of plant diversity and all that, right? So basically, they pollinate, right? So, well, that's the thing. We're probably going to be seeing a lot of these videos about the overabundance of moths and butterflies, but well, it doesn't go beyond that. Now let's also move on to other important matters. At this moment, a cyber attack is being reported, a possible cyber attack, because we'll still have to wait for confirmation, but it seems that's the case. In Brazil, the Civil Defense of Brazil announced, meaning the military, that their cell phone alert system was deactivated after suffering a probable cyber attack that caused false messages to be sent during the early morning hours. Several Brazilians claimed on social media that they woke up to a loud sound from their phone alarms. The civil defense indicated that the platform was deactivated after suffering an intrusion. A message was sent to different regions of the country, remotely ordered by someone outside the national civil protection system. In other words, a hacker sent the message. The message was triggered. It was an extreme alert and contained the word misanthropy, which means order of humanity. It was probably a hacker attack. The Brazilian authorities announced measures to reactivate the system as soon as possible when security conditions allow. So right now, they're still hacked. Well, no, it's not an apparent hack. It's a hack. They're saying it themselves. And, well, yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It's strange that they leave things like that. Another thing that stands out in this whole mess. The issue with the pool over there in Washington caused so much controversy that now, given the current situation, well, algae in that area? No. Well, what stands out is that Donald Trump, just to avoid taking the brunt of the criticism, what he's coming out to say is that that it was, what did he call it? This was vandalized. So the place was vandalized, and that's why everything turned green and weird, and I don't know what else, without any proof or anything, just like that. I mean, right in front of their noses, there's the Capitol, the White House, and everything else. They allegedly vandalized the place right in front of them. That's why it's affected. They're supposedly investigating the case. Well, that's how things are. There wasn't an unnecessary expense, a huge expense, just to have that pool be blue. It didn't work. And in the face of this waste, the criticism has been widespread. 14 million compared to what the United States spends on other things. Much more controversial. I think it's nothing. It's just a small issue among a series of much more interesting and important situations, right? See, this is the island. That pool. That's in the middle there. Not where the Capitol is, but somewhere around there. Well, all these iconic places in Washington, like the Abraham Lincoln Monument and all these situations, right? So, well, let's see what happens. Let's see how they resolve this situation. In the meantime, let's move on to other important topics. Well, hey, so AVI LOEB comes out and reacts to what will be the new council for Washington on the topic of UAPs, on the topic of UFOs. Yes, I mean, AVI LOEB had already said, and well, had commented that he was going to be part of it. In fact, apparently he is going to be the director of this council, a scientific council created to provide information to the White House. To review all identified aerial phenomena, I mean the UAPs. Look, it's one thing for them to reveal the information, and another for them to give us their interpretation of it. I mean, the objects are there. Now you can talk about the subject officially, because before you couldn't. I mean, it didn't exist, right? But as more and more official information keeps coming out, well, okay, the phenomenon exists. Perfect, okay. So what is the phenomenon? That's a different story. I don't know. Right? So they create a council in which AVI LOEB, a renowned astrophysicist from Harvard, is going to be one of them, right? One of the advisors and apparently the director. The White House announced the creation of the Scientific Advisory Council on Unidentified Aerial Phenomena with the participation of high-level scientists. The person in charge of leading the council will be AVI LOEB, a renowned astronomer from Harvard and one of the most well-known figures in the research on possible non-human technology. According to LOEB, the main objective is to scientifically analyze the objects observed in military videos and other records that still lack a definitive explanation. The most important new development is that the agreement with LOEB includes a provision that they say would be unprecedented for the United States government to collaborate with outside scientists and share information with them. Researchers stated that if the authorities were completely convinced that all the objects are known human technology, they would not have requested public scientific assistance. So what he believes is that by inviting them, what he understands is that they don't know what they are, meaning they truly don't know. If they really knew what they are, then they probably wouldn't be forming this council. The council intends to use more advanced sensors, artificial intelligence, and analysis systems of data to determine distance, speed, acceleration, and physical characteristics of the observed objects. Loeb maintains that the immediate priority remains national security, since all the phenomena could correspond to technologies developed by countries that are rivals of the United States. However, he also stated that there is a possibility that some of those objects, some of them, do not have a known human origin. A hypothesis confirmed only by verifiable evidence. During the interview he has been giving, one of the most, well, yes, maybe controversial topics was addressed. I don't know. He talks about the possible existence of materials recovered from alleged impact sites or accidents related to unidentified objects. Loeb admitted that much of the sensitive information is still classified and he doesn't have access to it, right? So at least for now, he doesn't have access to that part. There is a person named Elizabeth Vargas, a journalist who recalled the historical accusations against certain secret programs that would have remained hidden even from some of the presidents of the United States, to the point that not even they knew about them. So there are programs that in theory they don't even tell the presidents about, right? In response to all these doubts, he has said that anyone with verifiable knowledge who can present information to the council to try to access concrete evidence, they will be paying attention. They are going to receive not only what the government tells them, but they will also be open to other people sending them information and saying, hey, here is this, right? Here is this information, here is this photograph, here is this video. Check it out, right? That would be a very interesting opportunity for many of those commentators who claim to have the ultimate proof, the definitive photo, the definitive object. Well, there you go. They're opening up to this topic. And there's Loeb, who has a pretty important background, right? And apparently, he's open to the topic of the phenomenon, right? In response to other doubts that have been coming up, they assure that as long as it's verifiable knowledge, they will publish it. That scientist believes that the current administration has promoted a change of approach compared to previous decades, favoring greater institutional cooperation. And he assures and insists that research should focus exclusively on evidence obtained by multiple sensors, and not just on opinions spread on social media or public speculation. The final message states that the council was optimistic, saying that it expects to show progress in the coming months, and affirmed that the best, the most interesting, is yet to come. It's super interesting, honestly. It's really interesting, even though you always have some doubts, right? But it's interesting, it's important, it's a turning point. Yes, it's an important turning point. It's the first time that an independent scientific structure has support. Let's say now from the White House in Washington. Now that it's happening, whether they're going to limit it or not, I don't know, we'll see. But at first, this is interesting. Well, let's see what comes out of that, right? Meanwhile, the disclosure will supposedly continue, and we'll watch for any updates on this or other topics, right? But anyway, let's move on then to other points, other important matters as well. Let's address the other matters too. Antes, ¿cómo les ha ido? Hey, check out this image. Not that one. This one.
Not even the night could overcome this. And as I said, Ethan and Fake are on the level of real tablets with Nima.
Well, these are some of the images that have been circulating in the last few days. But in the last few hours, a bunch of Russian bloggers have appeared showing some of the prices and how things are. There's not even any oil. I mean, there's nothing. It's just at zero. There's nothing. It's simply at zero because there's no oil. There's no gasoline. Actually, it doesn't even say anything. In different parts of Russia, they say they've already entered a phase that's practically hysteria because gasoline keeps increasing and running out in different parts of Russia. A lot of images are appearing on social media of people, influencers who are showing what's going on there. Either the prices are excessive or there's simply no gasoline. So, yes, obviously this topic is also drawing attention. They show some effects and some attacks that are still happening in certain parts of Russia. They claim that a long-range attack was carried out on an oil refinery in Tyumen in the west. Basically, that's already in Siberia. It's about 2,000 kilometers away from the border with Ukraine. That's not surprising anymore either, because attacks at that level happen very often now. But it's still interesting. Here's the map. More or less. Let's see if we can put it over here. This is the map. There it is. That's the water. I mean, map. The distance is impressive, isn't it? I mean, that's how things are. That's how the situation is in that sense. That's how it is. Well, the attacks are happening and the distance is huge. The distance they're covering to attack is enormous. It's not that kind of place. It's not that kind of area. Well, that's how things are. And Huma produces about 9 million tons of crude oil per year. I mean, yes, these are strong blows in that sense, in the energy sense, right? That's all for this topic. Let's discuss other important matters. Hey, this fire has been reported. This happened. According to what the Spanish Civil Guard says, this happened in Navarra, right? There in Navarra, a deployment was made in response to fires in Bardenas Reales, Navarra. The Civil Guard detected a column of smoke near the Ferial Reservoir, which, as they say, started the joint deployment of air and ground resources to stabilize it. This was published by the Civil Guard itself. About what? The Civil Guard in Navarra, who posted this comment and these images. Well, honestly, it's surprising, isn't it? It's this one. It's quite something. And well, we'll keep updating whatever comes up in that regard too, right? Also, there's this message that caught my attention from this same person. JD Vance. Listen to this.
You can begin the second brief talks with the Iranians, Pakistanis, and Qataris. We understand that the Iranians have just landed, as well as the Qataris and the Pakistanis, and some of our technical negotiators are still on the ground. But look, we'll have a couple of days of talks to try to get this started the right way. There's a lot to talk about, but we're going to address everything.
Sir, the fighting in Lebanon seems to be a threat that could jeopardize the whole process.
What will the U.S. do? Marco and the team manage what happens in Lebanon despite the headlines. Things are getting better there. Things have declined a bit. It's going to be something that we'll have to keep managing continuously to make sure that, both Israel and Lebanon are safe and protected. That's fundamentally the goal of this. We want the whole region to be safe and protected. The big problem is that someone shoots and then someone responds, and it creates a kind of vicious circle where you just have to stop long enough for the peace agreements to hold. That's what we're going to try to do. People are watching it, but things have improved.
Pastor, could you tell us more specifically about your agenda and what you are doing? What would make this trip successful for each of you?
What would make this trip successful for you? Well, I think the main thing is to organize everything the right way and really establish the structure of the good news. So the way we're going to do this is that we'll have main political leadership at the top. And then obviously what will remain on the ground is what's going to, I'd like to stay in what seems to be a beautiful place. I might only be there for 1 or 2 days. I think that hopefully we're going to make progress on the nuclear issue and on the issue of the fire in Lebanon. Those are two important things that I think we're going to focus on. I'm sure the Iranians will also have matters to discuss in my country. See you on the other side. Thank you.
Well, that's the message he gives before the trip that JD Vance is going to make to Switzerland to talk with the Iranians in a supposed meeting, where they're not even going to sign the agreement supposedly, but rather they're going to talk about some points and reach an understanding. I imagine they're also gauging what's going to happen with Israel, because if Israel insists on the Lebanon issue, then possibly there won't be much negotiation, right? I mean, that could also be the case. It could be. We'll have to wait for a few more details. But yes, it's interesting. Now, there are tensions in the Strait of Hormuz, and the Revolutionary Guard itself has been sending messages to the ships passing through there, through Hormuz. There's an audio recording that we've already dubbed. It's an audio that was obviously in Persian, but we've already dubbed it so we can hear what's being said in these kinds of situations. Listen to this audio.
Attention all ships, attention all ships, attention all ships. This is the 4th Navy, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran, 4th Navy. Due to the crimes of Sayyad Banam, and the violation of the United States commitment regarding the ceasefire, the Strait of Hormuz is once again closed to all vessels. It is emphasized that the Strait of Hormuz is closed. All vessels are ordered not to approach the strait.
Goodbye, he says. That's what the vessels in the Hormuz area were hearing on the radio. That is, the people who are around here trying to cross. And this is the radio signal that the Iranians send out toward the Persian Gulf, saying the Strait of Hormuz is closed. It's closed. And that's the end of it. Why? Well, because of what's happening in Lebanon. Because they're still going at it full force. It hasn't stopped. The problem hasn't stopped. And well, that's something we also have to take into account. In the face of this, well, this conflict, right? That doesn't seem to be stopping yet, does it? We had already mentioned it 2 broadcasts ago, just a moment ago, that the Strait of Hormuz was closed. Well, now the audio is out, and even reactions are starting to come out. But anyway, JD Vance is heading to the United States, and what they call technical talks will continue. Tomorrow, Sunday, there will be technical talks in Switzerland. The American Vice President JD Vance will be there with Jared Kushner. Steve Witkoff will also be there. I understand that they will arrive starting tomorrow. We'll see. But it's assumed they'll arrive tomorrow to work on conversions, which they say are technical issues related to implementing the agreement. And so we're moving forward on those issues, right? Donald Trump says he's not going to give those millions. They said they were going to give. But, well, that's what he says, right? I mean, a comparison has already been made, and I'll keep it here to share it with the whole community. I mean, there's Obama's deal, right? Where they unfroze $1.7 billion, $1.7 billion, and Donald Trump is going to unfreeze $100 billion, right? But not only that, not just that, they're going to give them $300 billion in reparations. Here's the main point below. In Trump's agreement, Trump is going to give them $300 billion, that is $300 billion. The Americans are going to give them money so they can repair the things that the United States destroyed. With Obama, well, there wasn't that, obviously, right? I mean, besides how costly the attack was, now the repairs are going to cost them too. So between the $300 billion that the United States is going to provide, plus the $100 billion they're going to unlock, that's $400 billion. But that's not all. Hold on a second. This is just getting started. If they lift all the oil and gas sanctions, they'll be able to sell oil and gas to any market. Now, so the amount of money that's going to come in, man, it's going to be huge, right? For the Iranians, it's going to be impressive, isn't it? If it happens exactly as the Iranians are saying, right? Trump says yes, then no, then tomorrow. And who knows what else? He's juggling things over there. That's what we're going to have to see in the coming days. Even starting tomorrow, as information leaks out, or as they themselves start publishing how the agreement is going to be. We'll see, right, what it's really about, you know, because right now the little agreement is just one page. It's a pre-agreement. It's not even an agreement yet, right? So that's something we'll have to analyze as well, right? All right, let's go to the comments, right? Let's get to the information. Let's go to the comments, actually, and to the conversation, right? Let's go. Let's head over there. How have you all been? Happy weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Liceo, what's up? Cebolla, very good. Magico Luna. Juan, how have you been? And thanks to everyone in the community joining us. Thank you for sharing. If you haven't done it, share, okay? Now really share the video. Sharing is super important. You guys help me out by sharing the video. And well, you'll have us here giving you live information about international topics, right? Just help me out with that. That's all I'm asking. Share the video on your social media, on WhatsApp, with your friends, on Facebook, on Twitter. Help us out by sharing. That's super important. And especially in these times, right? When there are a lot of groups interested in manipulating information, even countries. So, well, if you help me out by sharing at least this voice, well, these voices, because you also have a voice here. And I insist, send us your audio messages. Send us your comments too, so they can also get important exposure in the Spanish-speaking world, right? Greetings, thank you very much. How are you, Angelo? What's up over in Italy? How are things going over there? How do you view Giorgia Meloni's discussion with Trump? Emma Andrade, how have you been? Good afternoon. What's up? Present but working. Great. Good luck at work. Francisco Arce, how have you been? Greetings. Pep en Vivo says, great. Greetings, Francisco Arce. The magical moon? Hey, was Germany losing just now? Did you see it? I just kind of heard about it, but I haven't seen anything yet. 2-1 Germany. They're ahead now after coming from behind, though Ivory Coast was leading earlier. The game's over. It's finished. Imagine. I mean, at one point the Germans were losing. It would have been something huge. I mean, come on, because it goes a bit against logic, right? Apparently. But the Netherlands also beat Sweden 5-1. What? So there's this thing going around that, right? A supercomputer says that the Netherlands is going to win the World Cup. Well, look, they started really strong. Well, I don't know if it's the second game or the first game. It's the second one, right? It must be. But yeah, what a blowout, right? Tomorrow we should watch Spain versus Saudi Arabia and Uruguay versus Cape Verde. I'm curious about Cape Verde, especially because of their goalkeeper, though. Uruguay is the obvious favorite, who has generated so much attention. And we'll be paying attention to that, right? We have a message, one here via Telegram. Let's see what they're telling us. It says, greetings. Wow, the message still hasn't come through. It says, but Aurora joined. Aurora joined. That's great, Aurora. Greetings to the whole community that's joining the group. They're on Telegram. We're both a channel and a group. So if you want to send a message, you can send it directly to me or to the group. And so, well, that's also something to be thankful for, right? There are already more than 3,000 of us on Telegram, right? And there on Telegram, we share with you when we are live. Same on WhatsApp, we also let you know when we are live. If there's an emergency or something important, we send it to you right there, okay? So just stay tuned for that. It says, let's see, what else is out there? It says, I'm leaving. Zahoya says, where are you? Eliseo, awesome. Angelo, greetings. It says, Juan is a middleman. It doesn't even take you 5 minutes when you go with a phone company employee. I mean, this registration thing, right? I mean, the biometric registration with the cell phone. Greetings, Zahoya. Georgia is a woman of steel. It says, Angelo, greetings. Angelo, how have you been? Very good. Greetings as well to the community watching us on replay. Thank you very much for being here with us. Hey, have an excellent day. Have a good weekend. We'll see each other again later for sure with some other information. And at night, we'll be back with all the information and a summary of the day, right? A hug. And today it's about series and movies, right? Series and movies. Your recommendations and obviously mine too. Let's go then. Take care. See you later.